Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, dear audience. My name is José Juan Lorenzo. I am the Managing Director of Canary Island Tourist Board. Firstly, I would like to express my sincerely gratitude to the Ministry of Ecological Transition and Demographic Challenge and the Biodiversity Foundation for extending an invitation to us to participate in this event during COP28 here in Dubai, bringing the world together at a critical moment for global transformative climate action. We are proud to be here representing the Canary Islands, and we are particularly eager to hear about all the significant challenges that we must face in the fight against climate action. Allow me to offer a brief introduction of our archipelago, the Canary Islands, a Spanish autonomous region, an archipelago in Micronesia, in Atlantic Ocean, the southernmost of the European region. At the closest point of the African mainland, they are 62 miles west of Morocco. With a total area of 7,447 square kilometers, the archipelago is divided into 8 islands. In 2022, we had a population of 2.17 million citizens, and during that same year, we welcomed 40.6 million tourists. This information is of paramount significance, as tourists in Canary Islands constitute 35% of the GDP and almost 40% of the total employment. More than 80% of the visitants choose Canary Islands for our wonderful climate, known also as the best climate in the world, supported by scientific studies, due to a stable and pleasant temperature all year round. It could almost be described as eternal spring. A climate is the most crucial and at the same time the most vulnerable element, and the preservation of nature environment and the fight against climate change is a key aspect to consider in the planning of the tourist strategy for the Canary Islands. In 2021, Canary Island tourists incorporate the increased commitment to climate neutrality as one of the main strategic goals. A year later, in October 2022, we became a signatory of the Glasgow Declaration on Climate Action in Tourism, promoted by UN WTO. As a destination, we commit to reduce emissions by 50% by 2030 and achieve net zero emission by 2050. At that moment, we present our Climate Action Master Plan, making us the first region in Spain and one of the few in the world to have a destination climate action plan. This plan is built upon 5 key areas of action: measurement, decarbonization, regeneration, collaboration, and financing. To meet this goal outlined in this action plan, we have developed 3 tools available to entire tourist sector in the Canary Islands to support them on their path toward decarbonization. For example, we have created a carbon footprint calculator. We also provide guides for each organization in the sector to develop their own climate action plan. In addition, we have taken on the challenge of estimating the carbon footprint of the Canary Island tourist sector to measure the level of compliance with the commitment arising from our adherence of the Glasgow Declaration. Thus, in 2022, tourism generate 7.34 million tons CO2 equivalent, a 2.88 reduction compared with 2019. We will present all this information in detail on Sunday, December 10th, and Monday, December 11th, at the UNWTO stand, located in the Blue Zone. In conclusion, tourism in the Canary Islands is directly linked to climate conditions. Considering the pivotal role of tourism in Canary Islands economic framework, climate change not only stands at its principal threat, but also represents a formidable challenge for the entire region. That's why the government of the Canary Islands, through the Minister of Ecological Transition and Energy, is working actively to mitigate the harmful effect that climate change could have on the islands. To do this, it's very important to have enough information to know not only where we are now, but where we are heading if we follow the current trends. Only then we can take the most accurate measure to minimize the damage that climate change can cause to our islands. This is what has been investigated in the project Climate Projection and Impact Studies over Archipelago Canary Island, developed by the COP28 Research Group of University La Laguna in Canary Island, alongside with the Department of Ecological Transition and Energy of the Government of the Canary Islands. Ladies and gentlemen, I have the honor of introducing our distinguished speaker for the presentation of this project, Mr. Ángel Montañez, the Director General of Ecological Transition and Climate Change for the Government of the Canary Islands, and Mr. Juan Carlos Pérez, a distinguished member of the COP28 Research Group and professor at the University of La Laguna in Canary Islands. Thank you for your attending, and have a wonderful day in this inspiring event. Please extend our welcome to Ángel Montañez. The stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Juan José. Thank you very much, Juan Carlos Pérez, from the GOTA group of the University of La Laguna. Thank you very much to everybody for to be here. My name is Ángel Montañez. I am the General Director of the Ecological Transition of the Government of the Canary Islands. We are at the heart of the 28th United Nations Climate Change Conference. This event reaffirms our global commitment to the future of the planet, today at risk. In these crucial days, Spain, with its presidency of the Council of the European Union, plays a key role. But today, I would like to focus on a concrete place where I am from, where we are from, where I belong, and one of the most beautiful places in the world, the Canary Islands. I want to address its climatic difficulties, not only as the head of a government administration called to undertake concrete solutions, but as a father who wants to security a future full of hope for his daughter. I believe that it is a guarantee of both my and my government's commitment to all of you. The Canary Island, more than archipelago, is a formidable natural laboratory that provides us with a very valuable lesson on how to deal with climate change. In this crucial scenario, both my colleague Juan Carlos Pérez and I not only want to provide with data, but a story of resilience, of solution that it is possible to take to other places in the world with similar characteristics. Our challenge is to study the effect of climate change on the island. The geographic fragmentation and unique position present challenge, but the Canary Islands have led the way in the solving the problem of climate projections. This is the result of Plan Climat, a project that has exported technology and knowledge beyond the border of our island. Plan Climat is the result of the collaboration between Consejería of Ecological Transition and Energy of the Canary Islands and the University of La Laguna. And today, it is expanding throughout Macaronesia. The Canary Islands has looked beyond its coast to understand and address the climate cycle that affects not only our region, but the whole world. What we are showing here is a tool that is proving its efficiency, a window to the future to allow us to understand the reality we will face in the near future if we do not urgently take action. But we should not do so arbitrarily, but based on scientific models that provide us with an accurate guide in order to avoid mistakes. We are taking to the COP28, a pioneer project that is not only crucial for the Canary Islands, but for the fate of the island themselves to face climate change. What we bring to this summit is not just a scientific project. It is a manifestation of how the Canary Islands is facing a problem that transcended our borders. It is a concrete instrument to make informed decisions. It is a step forward toward the construction of more sustainable world. The Canary Islands is not only present, it is leading the way toward a climate resilient future. And now I think that the most important is that Juan Carlos Pérez is going to say, because they have worked very hard about this situation that we are living in Canary Islands and the rest of the world. And I think that it's most important, Juan Carlos, than me.
No.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank Spanish Pavilion for hosting and allowing us to participate in this session to explain or to give the importance of the effects of climate change in a very special territory, like my colleague said before, not only Canary Islands, but also all the islands, oceanic islands around the world. Perhaps the question would be, what are these islands special, or what are these fragmented territory specials, and what do we need special information to account for the climate change effects over them? To answer these questions, we can go to several aspects. Some of them were commented by my colleagues and are related to the geographic location of these territories and for the physical characteristics of these territories. But not only the physical characteristics are very important, but also the social activity that develops in these territories is crucial. As Juan José said before, Canary Islands has a very important industry that is tourism, and this industry is affected by climate change and affects itself to climate change. Okay, so let's go through these aspects. Some of these aspects, as we said before, are just physical aspects, but others are related to climatology, for example. What makes these islands special? in reality, the orography of the islands in a so small territory, we have a very small surface of soil, but they have very different behavior in terms of altitude. So in the 8 islands that Juan Jose said before, we have some of them that they are almost flat, not higher than 300 or 400 meters, but the western islands present a very higher orography. So in some of the islands, like Tenerife, as probably most of you know, there are altitudes up to almost 4,000 meters that they affect very direct the climate in this region. So these factors should be taken into account. There are other factors that are direct or indirect affected by climate, like energy. This is a key aspect in social life in these territories. How do we get the energy? In Canary Islands, at present, we have 7 independent systems for electricity generation. Only 2 of the islands, Lanzarote and Fuerteventura, are linked together. And very soon, we hope that Tenerife and La Gomera will be linked together. But the problem is that those independent systems are very vulnerable, because any problem in any of them makes that the whole island will be affected, and they don't have any electricity. So it's very crucial. Other aspect that is very important is the water. In a small territory, we have no rivers, and the only water that we have comes from surface water coming from the rain, or groundwater, or industrial water. In the case of surface water, there is a key factor in Canary Islands, that is what we call the horizontal rain. The horizontal rain is the effect of the cloud impacting directly over our territory, leaving a great amount of water. So this aspect should be taken into account. Last but not least, we should talk about ecosystems. Ecosystems in this kind of archipelago, as they told before, Canaria belongs to a more general area called the Macaronesia region, and this area is famous because its biodiversity richness. So in very small territories, and thanks to the different climatology present in the different part of the archipelago, we can get ecosystems so different like palms or laurisilva, pine forest, and laurisilva in particular is very critical because it's only reduced to the Macaronesia region, and we should conserve this ecosystem. So we should take into account all of these aspects in order to evaluate what would be the impact of climate change on them. Okay, so probably I tried to explain or to understand that why the archipelagos in general, or Canary in particular, are very sensitive, are very vulnerable to climate change. But what can we do? I think that the first question that we can to answer is how this climate change will affect Canary. Okay, that's no. Just let me to. Okay. To understand this problem, I show you this slide. Okay, we need information about how we will be affected by the climate change. Okay, we have the climate projections performed by different institutions around the world. and undercover by the IPCC projects, and we can go through them to evaluate how they affect the climate. If we analyze these results of the information provided by these models, we could observe that Canaries are only represented by only small squares. All the islands are represented by 4 grid points. And these grid points, in reality, they are flat and not higher than 200 meters. So they don't represent what occurs in the Canary, because all of these microclimates that I told you before are not represented in this model. Okay, so this information provided by global organizations is not useful for the Canary stakeholders to adopt policies or to understand what the magnitude of the problem that would arise. How can we solve this problem? There are several techniques. In this point, the Canary government, local government, and the University of La Laguna take a collaboration to provide information in higher resolution to the local government, that this information could be useful for them to take decisions. And so we started a collaboration longing for more than 4 years to provide this kind of information. How can we obtain this information? The idea is to make zooms, nested zooms over the interest territory, and extract more detailed information for the interest, the territory under interest. But it's not so easy, because we cannot evaluate the atmosphere or the oceans as a zoom without taking into account what is occurring in the rest of our planet. So we need the information of all the planet, and then to make nesting zooms over our region of interest. And that was what we did. This mechanism is called downscaling. Okay, obtaining more detailed information from the information provided in the boundaries for the global models, and taking into account the special characteristics of the selected territory. So in our case, once we establish the procedure, we start processing. We select different domains with resolutions coming from 27 kilometers, 9 kilometers, and 3 kilometers. So we would provide information at 3 kilometers resolution for every point of the archipelago. In this case, Canary Island, but as they said before, we are extrapolating this result or these works to other island regions in the Macaronesian first and in the rest of the world second. Once we make the zoom, we apply physical equations, very complex physical processes, to evaluate what occurs in each of these grid cells every 5 seconds during 90 years. Okay, so we have more than 2 million of grid points, and for each of them, we calculate what will occur in the future every 3 seconds. This is a very highly demanding computing resource process, so we should recur to systems like high performance computing to perform these tasks. In particular, we have a collaboration with a local institute there in Canarias, that they have a supercomputer, and we have processed these informations for more than 5 years without interruptions. Okay, so we have more than 1,000 of computers working together for more than 4 years to provide these results. Okay, so we have the process, we have the computer resource, the results, and then we start to processing all of this information. As we have to process every single grid point, we have to take into account not only what occurs in the atmosphere, but also in the ocean and also in the every grid cell in the island. So we have to correct representing the altitude, the soil use, and all the information related to the territory. After making all of these computations, we obtain, let's see, okay, we obtain some results, temperatures, precipitations, winds, and other kind of information to evaluate what will happen in the future. For that task, we assume two scenarios, two IPCC projection scenarios. The worst one, the RCP 8.5, and the intermediate scenario that is the RCP 4.5. And for each of these scenarios, and for the two different periods, just one in the middle of 21st century and one at the end of the 21st century, we obtain the climatic information for averaging the results for the two 30-year periods. Okay, and we can see here how the some of these variables will behave in the worst scenario along the 21st year. The upper panel shows the temperature, where we can see how at the end of the 21st century how the temperature will increase very important, and also occurs with the precipitation, but in the opposite way. The precipitation would reduce the very important. But okay, that's not new. The temperature will increase. That's not new. Everyone we are talking about that temperature will grow 1.5 centigrades. But that's not the case. It's not this rising of temperature is not homogeneous in all the globe, and it's not homogeneous even inside one particular region. For example, in Canary, this is a very clear expression where we can see how the increase of temperature is higher in higher altitudes. It's not homogeneous, but we can obtain up to 6 degrees higher temperatures in the higher parts of the islands. That parts precisely are where the growing soils are nowadays in Canary. So it is important factor. In the same way, we can see how the precipitation would reduce, very important. In the eastern islands, there is not much variation because actually they don't receive many precipitation. But in the western islands, this reduction would affect very important because this reduction is higher in those regions that are now very irrigated by precipitation, where this special ecosystem that we talked before are placed. So this reduction could affect these very special ecosystems in a higher space. Okay. We have analyzed all of this amount of information. We are talking about, I don't know if you are familiarized with how to store the information in computer systems. Probably you are familiar with terms like gigabytes or kilobytes. Here we are talking about petabytes of information. Okay, we are talking about a large amount of information that we have to process to obtain derived information. So, using the results, we have made another studies to evaluate impact studies over different sectors in the Canary Islands. In particular, as as Juan Jose said before, tourism is our main activity. How this weather change or how does this climate change affect the tourism? For that, we use some tourist indices that these indexes measure the relationship between the meteorological variables and the comfort, the tourist comfort. Okay, so through a lot of surveys and a lot of tourists, they have elaborated these indices that starting from meteorological variables, we can obtain a number that says how the tourists will be comfort with these conditions. So for the different periods and the different scenarios, we evaluate these indexes to see how they will change in the future, and if this comfort, this tourist comfort that Jose said before, that is one of the main reasons that tourists can come to Canary, will persist or will they change very, very different. Unfortunately, they will change. They will change, especially in the summer station. These comfort indexes worsen a lot because not only the temperature increase, but also the soil evapotranspiration and other factors that change, that the humidity also reduce, and the comfort sensation, the comfort feeling will change to the tourists. Fortunately, in winter, this index will be better, but I think this is not a very good news. That's respect the tourists, but okay, we have island, very different ecosystems. We have a lot of forest fire, rainforest around the island. How would they be affected, for example, by forest fire? The index, the risk will increase, or they remain in the same condition? So again, we use a very standard index. The FWE is a Canadian index that take account different aspects to generate a number that say how the risky is a situation based on meteorological information. So using this index, and again applying this index to the present and to the two periods in the future, in the mid-century and at the end of the century, we calculate how this risk will be modified. And unfortunately, we can see what you see in the right panel, upper right panel, how what is called the season of fire. That is that period of the year that we have to take a special attention to fire. It will increase in some of the islands up to 10 months. 10 months a year. So almost all the year, the risk of fire would be very important in the island. So that information is necessary because the people, the stakeholders that account for these prevention systems and things like that, they have to be prepared. They have to take some measurements about what kind of vegetation could be grow, etc., to control possible forest fires. In the same way, another study that we have made is about extremes. What will happen to weather extremes? Hot weather, extreme rain precipitations. What will happen? In particular, we obtained that some parameters like tropical nights that measure how the number of days that we cannot sleep because the temperature is very high. In the worst scenario, in most of the part of the Canary Islands, the number of tropical nights would increase up to 80 days per year. So I think it's a important result. In the same way, for example, to analyze how the vegetation will behave in the future, we compute some indexes to obtain how the condition will be favorable to grow plants or to keep our forest very sane. In this case, in the lower part of the slide, you can see at different periods in the mid and at the end of the century, how different indexes would evaluate. The frequency of the aridex, the aridity index, o sea, how often we obtain drought episodes, or how long do these episodes take in the year, or how the evapotranspiration would be affected by these weather conditions that would change in the future. In this, the results from these studies that are published in some scientific journals show that in the worst scenario, most of the part of the Canary Islands will be affected by extreme aridity in all the territory. So we have to be prepared to account for these new coming conditions and to take action before it would be very late. Okay, more or less that I want to present, and we stay here to attend any question or just to invite to ask or participate in these studies. Okay, thank you. Okay.
Thank you. Juan José Febles, European Investment Bank. I have a question on your study. I guess you're projecting into the future. It's not just statistical look into the past.
No.
But the question is, what's next? Are you going to take any decision in terms of avoiding or mitigating the effects of the results of the report, or which maybe it's a question to all three in terms of contingency plans or any kind of alternative for mitigation?
Perhaps this is a question for Juan Pablo.
Yeah, as we said before, just in the tourist side, we take really seriously, and we have a climate action plan on place already, just for 1 year and a half, and we are providing a cloud solution for all the small and medium companies to measure, to reduce, to do its own climate action plan. We are measuring all the estimating already. We are estimating all the emission of the Canary Island, and we are taking all of the measures that we can take. For example, we are working so close with the air connectivity to find a way to see how we can reduce our emission. We are working on many regeneration projects too in the Canary Island. We are in a phase that we have identified the good practice, and we are showing this practice, and we are doing whatever we can to mitigate the effect. And I think that we will, I will see that we try hard, and we will do our best. And we are here to learn and to know how we can do better. Okay.
For my part, I say that our experience in these years at the local government is pushing very hard to obtain this information, and they are trying to move the different sectors to take some measurements to mitigate what is coming. In fact, our collaboration show this. They are demanding every day new information, new sectors affected, and I know that they are very involved in the mitigation plans.
I have to say that this study finished this year, and now we have a lot of data, and we have to change a lot of policies. We are working now. Thank you. We are working now to change these policies, and the most important is that the rest of the politicians in Canary Island know this data, because I think that everybody know that the climate is changing, but we need data of the future for to do real policy for to change it. And I think that this moment is very important with this data. We have to change a lot of things, but we need data.
You can close.
Okay.
If you want, you can close the event.
Any other question? Or? Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, distinguished guests, dear colleagues and friends. My name is Elena Pita, and I am director of the Biodiversity Foundation, a public sector foundation attached to the Ministry of Ecological Transition and Demographic Challenge. On behalf of the Ministry, I am very pleased to welcome you to this panel discussion on education and skills challenges and action for accelerating gender equality in the just energy transition. As you know, it is aimed at reinforcing commitments, initiatives, and strategic alliances to accelerate the achievement of equal, effective, and meaningful participation of women at all levels and spheres of the just energy transition. Today is COP28 Day for Youth, Children, Education, and Skills. And we would like to pay particular attention to the spheres of education and skills for green entrepreneurship and employment aligned with climate action. Therefore, it's an honor having Diandra Niwachala, Youth Delegate to COP28 and 29 from the European Economic and Social Committee as our first panel speaker. Welcome. Another key focus of this panel is strengthening partnerships in the frameworks of the Equal by 30 campaign and the Feminist Action for Climate Justice Action Coalition. As you may know, Equal by 30 is a campaign under the Equality in Energy Transitions Initiative, a joint effort between the Clean Energy Ministerial and the International Energy Agency to advance gender equality in clean energy globally. The Feminist Action for Climate Justice Action Coalition is one of the action coalitions convened by UN Women and under Generation Equality. It is a global, innovative, and multi-stakeholder partnerships which mobilize governments, civil society, youth-led organizations, international organizations, philanthropy, and the private sector. Therefore, we are very pleased to have, on the one hand, UN Women moderating this panel. Thank you so much, Jemima, for Chief of the Economic Empowerment, to be here with us moderating this magnificent panel. On the other hand, we are very pleased to have gathered speakers from organizations we are commitment makers to either both of those partnerships, as is the case of the Netherlands, Canada, and Spain, or to one of these partnerships, as is the case of the Global Women's Network for the Energy Transition, or the case of the Women Engaged for a Common Future. This organization has also an ecofeminist network in which Action for Rural and Women's Empowerment, as an Uganda partner, will represent them today. Thank you a lot to all our distinguished guest speakers. I would like also to put on context a little bit our participation in this panel, give a few ideas on the commitments from Spain on the issues related to this panel. Spain is committed to both the Equal by 30 and the Feminist Action for Climate Justice partnerships, because we do believe that joint action is much more powerful instrument for social change than the mere addition of individual actions. Our commitments more related to these panels are mainstreaming gender equality and the empowerment of women and girls in the ecological transition in Spain, and promoting women's green entrepreneurships and women's entrepreneurships in rural areas. The output from this panel will also be relevant for mutual learning and further collaboration in topics related to our 4 commitments to the Equal by 30 campaign. The first commitment is related to visibility. We are committed to drive the visibility of women, workers, or students in energy transition fields, especially those in the technical areas, and to strengthen the educational and reskilling opportunities and conditions in these fields. Both aim at increase the interest of girls and women in studying and working in fields related to renewable energies and energy efficiency. The second commitment is related to gender mainstreaming. We're committed to facilitate significant progress toward effective equality between women and men in the different spheres of the energy transition regarding employment, and entrepreneurships, innovation, and leadership. The third commitment is related to the issue of data and indicators. We're committed to systematically generate, spread, and consider data, indicators, and studies on gender and energy aimed at orienting and optimizing the impact of the energy transition public policy. And finally, our fourth commitment is related to collaboration and partnership. We are committed to progress in the collaboration with other entities and to foster spaces for periodically sharing knowledge and good practices for generating ambitious goals. All these measures are crucial for combating the gender norms and stereotypes that negatively affect the participation of women and girls in the professional and educational fields. A recent study, in fact, which was coordinated by the Biodiversity Foundation and the Spanish Climate Change Office on employment and ecological transition, highlights that specific gender measures are crucial to close the educational and professional gender gaps related to these new sources of employment and professions, as well as to the new skills and competencies required. Finally, to conclude, I just wanted to emphasize that joining forces for facilitating key synergies between SDG 7, the one related to affordable and clean energy, and SDG 5, the one on gender equality, makes it easier for these two goals to go hand in hand and to fulfill the significant progress that both need. Let's strengthen our partnership for it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Elena, for those powerful opening remarks. My name is Jemima Njuki. I lead UN Women's work on economic empowerment. And thanks to Spain for inviting UN Women to moderate this panel. And thank you for your leadership as a member of as a commitment maker in the Feminist Action for Climate Justice Action Coalition, which is convened by UN Women and our Generation Equality Forum. And thanks also to Canada and the Netherlands who are here with us in the panel, who also are commitment makers to the Action Coalition, including the Equal by 30 for Canada. So why are we here? We know that to be effective and inclusive, just transitions must ensure that women, the youth, the girls can equally participate, contribute to, and benefit from that transition. That is to say that the transition away from fossil fuels and other harmful practices must be gender responsive. We have seen the data. It has been estimated that the number of jobs in the renewable energy sector could nearly triple from 12.7 million jobs to 38 million jobs by 2030. What this does is it offers us enormous potential and opportunity to make sure that women, young women, and girls preparing to enter the labor market actually have the skills to do this. We need investments in STEM education. We need capacity building and programs to ensure that women and girls acquire the necessary skills, training, education, and position themselves to enter these newly created jobs, which we know are generally going to be better paid and will provide greater benefits and security than jobs in sectors where we see women traditionally more represented. But we know the numbers are also not telling a pretty story in terms of education. Globally, only 18% of girls in tertiary education are pursuing STEM studies, compared to 35% of boys. And this is explaining some of the gender gaps that we are seeing in the labor force as well. But it also goes beyond positioning women and girls having the necessary skills, because that is only half the battle. There are deep-rooted structural and systemic barriers, discriminatory social norms and stereotypes that perpetuate occupational segregation and limit advancement and perpetuate gender gaps in the world of work, especially in the energy sector. And so I'm really delighted to have in the panel esteemed colleagues who have experience, who have programs, and who are committed to ensuring that we achieve gender equality in the just transition. I am going to begin with Diadra Ni Bwachala, a youth delegate to COP28 and COP29 from the European Economic and Social Committee. And I have a question for you, Diadra, to tell us about the work that the EESC is doing to accelerate gender equality in the just energy transition. And if you could specifically refer to your role as a young delegate, what are some of the lessons you're learning on education skills and gender equality for a just energy transition, particularly with respect to youth engagement, that you would like to highlight today?
Absolutely. Thank you very much, and thank you for having me here today. I think that a great first step is definitely creating space to listen to personal experiences and direct impacts of decisions or indecisions. I think it's crucial to broaden understanding, to enact change, and to build resilient and informed communities. But for this to happen, we need to establish conducive environments through multiple and overlapping inclusive mechanisms, and we need to foster open dialogues. And I think that this is a key method for women and girls to play a pivotal role in a just transition. This is something which is central to the EESC's position paper on the Just Transition Work Programme, where we call for the development of pathways to a just transition to be based on social dialogue and the involvement of civil society. I think that all major groups within civil society, including women and gender and youth groups, need to be consulted and involved from planning to decision making to implementation. And we need, for that to happen, to find institutional arrangements. The EESC, for anybody who isn't aware, is the civil society organ of the EU, and as a result we are requested on specific occasions to contribute to exploratory opinions. So on the request of the incoming Belgian presidency of the Council of Europe, we have set out an exploratory opinion on advancing the EU's just transition policy framework, which includes what measures will be needed in order to achieve it. It has been adopted at section level and will be adopted at committee level hopefully next week. We call for a framework that both preserves and develops the European social model to advance social justice, equality, non-discrimination and inclusion. It is intersectional and gender sensitive, which ensures meaningful and bottom-up civic participation through participatory budgeting, through citizens' assemblies and youth energy councils, for example. And lastly then, on youth engagement, we are the first EU institution to implement the EU Youth Test, which ensures that young people are considered in all new laws and policies. We really want this to also act as an opportunity to engage with the youth organisations that are already active within this space, and to ensure that young voices are reflected in the work that we're doing and in the opinions that we're putting forward to other EU institutions.
Thank you very much for that, Diadra, and for reminding us that we really must listen to the voices of young people, that we must take an intersectional approach. And congratulations on the important work that you're doing. I would now like to introduce Sandra McArdell, who's the Assistant Deputy Minister, International Affairs Branch, Environment and Climate Change of Canada. And for you, Sandra, could you tell us about the work that the Government of Canada is doing to accelerate gender equality in the just energy transition? And especially if you can tell us more about the Equal Pay by 30 campaign action within the country and internationally, and some of the commitments that you have made in this area.
Great. Thanks very much. Is this working? Yeah, it's working. Okay, thanks. Look, you know, it's really a pleasure to join a panel like this. Strong women working on their future, those of you around, listening to this discussion. Certainly my government has had a feminist policy in place since 2015. We had a prime minister who sort of proudly stood up and said that he was a feminist at a time that word seemed a little bit loaded, and really kind of opened up the discussion for us about what it meant to have gender equality mainstreamed across all government policies. And so when we come to the just energy transition, when you have a leadership with that kind of commitment, and quite frankly, a strong energy sector as Canada does, it really just made sense that we needed to look at how we were going to integrate women into this energy transition. And so in your introductory remarks, you made a couple of points that I think are really important. One is around the opportunities that are coming from this sector. There will be jobs in this sector. And we need to be positioning women now to be part of this transition of jobs that we see on the horizon. And there's a couple of things in there that we can think about, and I'll come back to what we've done so far. But when I look at what the opportunities are, they touch on a couple of things that women have traditionally struggled with. And one is access to the STEM professions and the education that it takes to access those jobs. But secondly, the ability to get the kind of financial support, the credit that it takes to start your own businesses. So just to say, we need to be acting on this now, because this is the future, and we need to be drawing lessons from where women have seen barriers in the past and be addressing those now. So look, just a couple of things. So Canada and Sweden started in 2018 the Equal by 30 platform. And as I mentioned, it just made sense for us, and Sweden at the time also had a feminist policy. And the goal of this was to do the things we've been trying to do in other professions in the energy area. So that was about advancing equal pay. It was about making sure women had positions of leadership and making sure that the opportunities were available to all. And that had to be in the global energy sector. So over the past 5 years, we've gotten 200 signatories from across industry, national governments, subnational governments, and other organizations to commit together to making sure that women have the place that they need and deserve at the table. In terms of signatories, all of the G7 countries have signed on. Very happy to say that our host today, Spain, has also joined. So really getting some great support for that. Maybe just one thing I will say is that, having this kind of campaign to get women into positions of leadership really depends on making sure that we've got the right supports in place and the right measures. So we've launched a self-assessment tool, and that gives resources and support to those who sign on to this platform. But it also is giving some measures so that we can track our progress and make sure that we're actually hitting what we want to in terms of those pay, those leadership, those opportunities. So great work being done. Then maybe I'll just very quickly add on that. Domestically, we have a sustainable jobs plan, that's really about making sure that we see equity, fairness, and inclusion in these evolving sectors, and that women are not just kind of available and part of it, but they're actually at the decision-making tables as we look at how this industry is developing, how renewables are coming on stream. So maybe I'll just close in saying that I think what's really important about what we're doing today is making sure that we're spreading the good word, but they're also creating the partnerships to make sure that we support this, across the globe. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Sandra, for that. And two things that I pick up. The fact that this is an opportunity for us to do this better than we have done before. That we need the support systems that allow women not just to remain at the bottom, but to also be in decision making. And so that brings us very nicely to Natalia Weber, who's the project manager and mentoring program coordinator at Global Women's Network for the Energy Transition.
Yes.
So tell us about what GWNet is doing to accelerate gender equality, and especially the mentoring program that you are coordinating. What are some of the lessons you're learning from this in terms of the role of mentoring?
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for the questions. And thank you for saying what you said. It's very inspiring. So what we are doing, we are in the front line of exactly what you just said. We are offering opportunities for women to be mentored with seasonal professionals. So we are giving them opportunities to be exposed to different kind of professionals, receive career advice, and then with this create a framework that they can develop a new set of skills and also being exposed to different skills that they would like to develop so they can reach a different career level. So we give this support for women to climb the ladder in higher positions. So in a nutshell, and the lessons learned, I think which is really interesting is that in the mentorship programs, what works is that we give the new set of skills for them to learn through receiving advice from a seasoned professional, but also by having the support of someone that they know they're there for them, gives them the confidence that they are not alone. So is this, I think what is important is education together with the feeling that they are not alone. So that would be the highlight.
Fantastic. This feeling that you're not alone, because we know that is happening a lot in some of these fields like energy, in STEM. This feeling that as a woman, you are actually there with, the face of some of these professions is so male. So the role of mentoring is really, really critical. And I know a lot of us are where we are today. We are here at COP speaking in podiums because we've had mentors who have supported us. And it is then our role to mentor others that come after us, all with us. I want to now turn to Renee Van Hel, who is the Director for Inclusive Green Growth and Ambassador for Sustainable Development at the Dutch Ministry of Foreign Affairs. No, I don't have Renee. I have Mikey Hoffman, right? Yes. I have Mikey Hoffman, who has replaced Renee. Mikey, apologies for that, but could you tell us about the work that the Dutch government is doing to accelerate gender equality in the just transition and some of your country's commitments, and especially on women's access to renewable energy? Which lessons learned or results would you like to highlight?
Thank you. Let me first start by saying that my director, René van Hel, should have been here, but he's stuck in another meeting, so that's the confusion. Yeah. As Canada, we also have a feminist foreign policy in the Netherlands, and actually one of our principles is not to take place in only male panels. So I don't know, something went wrong here, but René should have been.
Sometimes we are allowed to have an all-female panel, especially when it's issues that we are passionate about.
Well, actually, what we, before we turn to this actual subject, what we've noticed in everything that we do is that you really need to engage men in whatever you do. So it's also good to see some men in the room. But to go back to the renewable energy, what we're doing, I have some notes because I'm not the expert in renewable energy, but I've been working on gender equality for ages, so if you have specific questions on that, I'm more confident. Oh, sorry. So the Netherlands focuses on renewable energy and energy access, and particularly we work in Africa. And we prioritize clean cooking and then clean cooking around the world. And clean cooking can ease the health problems and economic burdens that disproportionately affect women and girls. And daily cooking responsibilities largely are held by women and girls. So, and the empowering effect is, of course, giving them a new source, the clean cooking. But empowering is much more than only giving them a source. We also have to look at leadership. So we do a lot on enhancing leadership. There's the Clean Cooking Mentorship Program working on this. And to further amplify the impact, we also have the multi-donor partnership. I hope I pronounced it correctly. NDEF, it's called. And Netherlands is one of the founding parents of this. It focuses especially on leaving no one behind. It addresses the practical needs of women and girls, and it looks at increasing incomes, and it contributes to economic self-empowerment. So as I already mentioned, we have a feminist foreign policy, and this policy, in combination with the actions that we have, well, it all refers to the 4 R's that we work on in our foreign policy. It's the rights, representation, resources, and the reality check. So if you look at the improved access to renewable energy and the clean cooking and the self-empowerment that I already mentioned, then we address the resources, the rights, and the representation. It's all being enhanced. And what about the reality check? Well, that's for all of us. That's for ourselves. We need to check if whatever we do, the assumptions that we have to look at the local context. If it's not us thinking what should be done, but we have to look at what are the needs on a local basis. So effective development is, in our view, locally led development. We also have our own development, or we have the development bank in the Netherlands, FMO. The bank is committed to investing in access for women, including the renewable energy sector. So there's a lot of work being done there as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mikey. And you make important points about really listening to the needs and priorities of women, understanding that local context. But this topic of clean cooking, earlier in the week, there was a launch of the African Women in Clean Cooking Support Program, and some of the data that was presented. I remember one statistic that was presented saying that there is more women and girls dying from indoor pollution due to the type of cooking fuel they're using than malaria and tuberculosis combined. So this is a really, really important issue as we think about the just transition and women's access to energy. I would now like to turn to Agnes Mirembe, who is the Executive Director of Action for Rural Women's Empowerment, ARUE, a Ugandan partner organization in Women Engaged for a Common Future, the WECF Eco-Feminist Network. So to you, Agnes, if you could tell us about the work that you're doing to accelerate gender equality in the just transition, especially emphasizing your work on energy solutions in the framework of WECF's commitment to FACJ and some of the lessons that you have learned as well.
Thank you so much.
I can't hear you, yes.
No, it's gone, but now I have it here. Hold on.
Thank you. You can now hear me?
It should be fine.
It should be fine.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Jemima. So my name is Agnes, and as Jemima said, we are partners of WECF, and so coming from Uganda, WECF really supports us to work with rural women to implement gender-just energy solutions that actually puts the women at the forefront of their energy transition. What we have done at ARUE, please pardon me, I think I'd rather use this. Thank you so much. Let me use this. So what we have done at ARUE, we have implemented a decentralized and community-based energy model. And this model is really helping the rural communities to have access to affordable, clean, and reliable energy. But because we know for sure that where we are coming from, like from Uganda, it is, our role as women to make sure that we have, we provide energy for our families, for everything to do, to prepare food and everything. And yet we are coming from a male-dominated community, and the energy sector, where I'm coming from, is really dominated by women. we try in this model to really bring as much as possible the participation of women and to make sure that they can also participate, not as end users, but also producers of energy. And so we have built women-led cooperative models. And these cooperative women-led models not only really give an opportunity for women to participate, but they are informed, they're based on uninformed and participatory processes. So what we do is we start with an awareness creation campaign, letting women and community understand what, the challenges that they are really experiencing under climate, but also energy, and also building their capacity around what alternatives there are for women to participate. So we actually bring the women into a process of training and educating them on alternatives. As a RUE, we are promoting 3 renewable technologies that include solar, that includes biogas, and charcoal briquettes. But what is very important is to let the women participate which technology they are willing to take. And so once they do that, we go through a vocational and practical training. Most of the women where we are coming from do not have an opportunity to go through the formal learning. And so we do practical training of these technologies, depending on what the women have really decided on doing. And so we build them on proper installation, first of all, and really operations. Like I said, this was a male-dominated sector. But having women trained in practical, implementation, installation, and operation has really been very, very successful in scaling up renewable energy. What we have learned is that, first of all, the women themselves really have the solutions. They have experience. Like I said, it is them that suffer to have energy. And so when you involve them, consult them and train them, they have the solutions themselves because of the local and ancestral knowledge. And so our role is really to help them really understand how to do it, and also really, really have leaderships, build their leaderships to make sure that they can promote it in the communities. But the challenge and what I say as a lesson is scaling up. So as they do this, the financial bit is one of the things that we have learned that has really, really, really affected their scale up. So initially, when they get the skills, they can do that. But because it involves technology, access to finance is really, really challenging them. But in terms of making sure that the communities and the women can adopt them, we have trained women ambassadors, women energy ambassadors, who go on to train the communities, but also helping them to understand they have the ability to practically participate in the energy sector. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Agnes. So you were talking about women not just being users of technology, but also being the designers and entrepreneurs that build these technologies as well. Thank you so much for some of those lessons, but also some of the challenges that still remain around access to finance. Last but not least is Laura Martin Murillo, who's director, Just Transition Institute. And Laura, I have almost a similar question for you, to tell us more about the work that you're doing at the Just Transition Institute to accelerate gender equality in the just energy transition, and especially in reference to the commitment to the feminist action for climate justice and some of the lessons that you're learning from that work.
Thank you very much, Yamima. I'm Laura Martin. I'm the director of the Just Transition Institute that is part of the Ministry for Ecological Transition in Spain. I have the privilege to work for a feminist government that is committed with the ecological and the energy transition and is committed to have a just energy transition. And maybe that we have in the ministry a branch that is this institute that deals with the just transition is the best sign of the proof that it really matters to us. I don't know. Maybe like this is better?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So first, what we did, at the very first beginning, we launched our climate change and energy transition law together with the objectives that we needed to decarbonize our economy inside Europe. with a just transition strategy. So we wanted to have all policies from the beginning on board. With this just transition strategy, we wanted to maximize the opportunities of the ecological transition in Spain. We think are huge for opportunities at the economic level and at jobs level. But our second objective is that these opportunities were equal for women and for vulnerable populations. So it also matters how we create these opportunities. So now we had that strategy, we had that objective, and we needed to start to deliver what we were going to do. First, we needed to know where we were at the energy transition in women participation terms. So we ran a study together with the Naturgy Foundation, and what we found out is in the last years, we are getting better. 4 out of 10 jobs in the energy transition fields, electricity, net, self-consumption, energy efficiency, for transport, for retrofitting, for consultancy, 4 out of 10 are occupied, of the new jobs are occupied by women. But news too. It's very much segregated. It's mainly at the administrative and not technical side of the industry. And the rate was so low, that still we are at 18%. And our participation, women participation in employment in Spain is beyond 40. In the energy sector is 18. So we have a problem. We, of course, joined the Equal by 30 campaign because we now know that we need to move fast, very fast, much faster than what we have been doing. What are the specific policies we are focusing on? Well, my institute is dealing in these last 4-5 years, we have been dealing with phase out of coal. So in Spain, we had a kind of a very fast phase out of coal, both mining and coal power plants. The weight of women in that economy was low, was very low. They were very much male-dominated sectors. And if we wanted to push in those territories a just transition, we needed not only to provide solutions for those men that were losing the jobs, but we needed to create jobs that provide a future for women. We have doing this with training, of course. In technical training for the Just Transition Institute, we have 30% for technical training of all the courses have to be occupied by women. And we are also starting with specific training for women, because sometimes participation is so low that they don't feel comfortable. They are not in the comfort zone. So we are delivering also specific training for women. We are also aiding with more money, entrepreneurs and companies that provide jobs for women. So if you create a job for women, you will get a higher aid from the state. But also we are looking, and that is very important, for leadership in these communities. At certain point, what I realized is that everybody that had my phone, I was the director of the Just Transition Institute, and in these areas, it doesn't matter, mayors, workers, trade union committees, companies, entrepreneurs, were men. And we knew that there were also women with leadership in the territory, but they were not coming close to us because sometimes they don't dare. So we had to provide specific policies to say, sisters, we are here for you to call us, we want to work with you. So that is what we are now.
Thank you very much, and especially for that last point about amplifying women's leadership in the just transition and the energy sector. So important. I want to open up to the audience for a couple of questions, but before doing that, I had a second question for you that we are going to test your oratory skills because you must answer it in 30 seconds. So the objective of this panel was to identify some recommendations on how do we accelerate this work, how do we move forward in terms of achieving gender equality in the just transition. So in 30 seconds, one recommendation from each of you, and we are just going to start with Deidre. So be thinking about your 30-second pitch of what we must do moving forward.
For me, it would be investment in green education and skills, including in reskilling and upskilling for women and girls. But this needs to be simultaneously ensuring that we have an accessible job market with opportunities for genuinely decent work. It also has to include investment in learning intensive opportunities and jobs which can capitalise on the assets and capabilities of younger generations.
Green skills building. Sandra.
So much pressure. Okay, look, I'm going to say as my one recommendation that we take the data that we get that was part of the Equality by 30 and use it to measure and celebrate our successes, but that we use it to identify the gaps, and within that, to be careful that we are developing policies to respond to those gaps that will really help propel women forward. So we've got the solid facts, but that we're using them to address where we see that we need to make policy changes.
Fantastic. Evidence-based celebration, identifying gaps, moving forward. Mikey.
Well, I would say that whatever you do in the area of gender equality, especially in accelerating gender equality, it's all about empowerment, and it often starts with an individual person who becomes a role model and can also, inspire others.
Build from the individual, right? Natalia.
I have to say the same what Sandra said, but it is our recommendation, which is to advocate for standardized, comprehensive data, because we need information. Without information, we can't make targets. So we need to have data, and we need to build together standardized data, because we need to compare countries. So that would be my recommendation.
So again, data. Let's not fly this just transition plane blindly. We need data. Agnes.
I think access to, because if we need to scale up the local solutions, we really need to have access to climate financing that is flexible, that is long-term, that would allow the women actually amplify some of these local solutions into the climate, financing processes.
Money that works for women and in large scale. Not small monies, right? Good. Laura.
Well, I will not repeat the data because I already explained. First, it sounds a little bit boring, but I think to have proper institutions that have the obligation to deliver is important. So having a policy and a group of leaders inside the government that are focusing on that just transition side is very important, and I think it really helps to run the rest of the units. And second, we have to, of course, when you work from the administration, you would think, well, I want to help to create jobs for women. I want to provide training for women. But we need to also combine this maybe kind of passive. I mean, don't think of women as passive that you have to provide, but to involve them as active, what they need. And that is, as Agnes has said, that is very different from, even in Spain, in local perspective. Women in rural areas need different things than women in urban areas. Women in some regions need some other kind of solutions.
And it's not boring at all. Political will, institutions that work, long-term commitment, involve women, take an intersectional approach, right?
Right.
Fantastic. So we'll open for a few questions now from the audience. I'm told we have only 10 minutes. I see 3 already.
Sopa Diuchi, thank you for this panel. My name is Jessica Hernandez, and I'm from the Maya Chorquimbinisa tribal nations, and I work for Landesa as a climate and land tenure specialist. So my question is, what best practices or advocacy is your organization taking so that this just energy transition doesn't violate indigenous rights or continue desecrating indigenous lands in the global south? Thank you.
Thank you. Very critical question. Right next.
Hello, my name is Olga Janeva. I'm from Kyrgyzstan, also working for rural women. And so I would like to thank for wonderful presentations. And I would like to add also one, I think, very important recommendations is women's solidarity and partnership, like regional and global, like South and North, because this we also, with the support of WECF, we implemented like similar program for rural women, and we thanks for this knowledge and information and technologies that we managed to bring, thanks to the support of the exposure visits. Like we learned a lot from Georgia, from Moldova, from some European countries, and these technologies of using solar energy we managed to bring back to our country. So this is my recommendation. Partnership, women, solidarity, we need this exchange.
Thank you. Very important recommendation to add. Yeah.
Hi, hello. Thank you very much for this panel. My name is Alicia Arguello. I'm the head of sustainability for Hitachi Energy, so a company with 20% of women. And I'm Spanish, so very proud of this. You have been talking on a lot of solutions, I think very powerful solutions or actions, but something that I've experienced in my career has been always having very strong male allies, from my 5 brothers to male figures in the companies I've been working for. So, but it's hard sometimes, right? How? And I want to ask you, as really leaders on these topics of policy, how can we build stronger alliances with men in those positions, in those leaders' positions you were mentioning, that will actually drive the quick action that we actually need, because we have no time?
Thank you. Any last takers for a question? Here.
Good evening, everyone. Sorry, I just came late, but the topic is interesting. And for me, I didn't hear most of the discussion. But I just want to add that in terms of education and skills, challenges, and action for accelerating gender equality, we need more partnership. My name is Priscilla Chapa. I'm from Women Environmental Program Nigeria, and we are partners to WECF as well. But another issue which we need to look at is unpacking the language of climate change and bringing it to the local communities, the solutions that they are impacting the lives. People need to know what is climate change, what is just transition, so that whatever actions we are taking, we're talking about education here, and we cannot continue to use the ambiguous language that we're using for the communities, because they don't understand what is fossil fuel. What is just transition? They don't understand those full languages. So we need to see how we can unpack those languages for them to understand, and then their actions will trigger to the thank you.
Fantastic, but very important point. Are we all speaking the same language? Is it clear what we are talking about? How can we simplify these concepts? So what I'm going to do in the interest of time, the 3 who are farthest from me are going to answer the question on how do we achieve gender equality and a just transition without violating the rights of indigenous people. And the 3 that are closest to me, how do we build male allyship? In 30 seconds again. I'm enjoying this.
Okay.
How do we do this while respecting indigenous people's rights? Yes.
I think it's listening to people. I think it's opening up dialogues that are honest and critical of what is happening and how people aren't being included and aren't being listened to. I think that that's the main way to move forward, because if we're not listening to people, what are we doing? There's no way that we can actually confirm that what we're doing will help people, and we all know here that a just transition is something that we can absolutely not get wrong, that it will actually further create divisions and boundaries and further issues that we already have. So listening and an open dialogue for me.
Anything to add?
Oh, moderator, I'm totally going to cheat on this 30-second thing. So just to say, all great recommendations from the audience, and she only said we could pick one, so we would have, I think all picked up what you guys said. Look, I just want to say that Indigenous is not just a Global South experience, it's very much a part of my country's experience. And so I think fundamentally the bottom line comes out to, nothing about us without us. And so, how we're going to engage Indigenous and make sure we're respecting their rights is to have them be part of the process, have them be part of the process from the beginning, to consult. And I think as well, there was a point in there about plain speak, and I think that's an important one when we're looking about engaging a wide range of communities, is talking about these things in a way that is clear and meaningful to them. And I think that consultative process is really at the basis of how we're going to ensure that Indigenous rights and the rights of all are respected.
Mikey?
Yeah, I think I can echo what was said before. Maybe to add, what we also notice is that you really have to be mindful of power relations, that whoever you talk to, that if you're not mindful enough, then there can still be an issue. So
very important. Yes.
So asking your questions, I think is a good question. And what I would say, we need to inform them. We need to do what we are doing here and also bring data to tell them that, for example, how their companies can profit more by having women. They don't know that. So if we need to tell them the importance of having women, they're going to have more creative, they're going to have less risk, they're going to have all different sorts of skill sets, more creativity. So they need to be informed of the benefits of having women in their teams, in their companies, in any project. So it's information. That's why we need data to inform them and tell how much % your company is going to profit more by having women.
Thank you so much. I think in my community, Uganda, we just have to work on changing mindset, men's mindset. So attitudes and mindsets. I think we definitely need to break the discriminative practices that really affect the women, and it starts with men. And so we have to strategically bring them on board, consult with them. But it also goes into the cultural norms that we have. So awareness and helping the men understand and appreciate the role of women in energy transition. And so the other thing is making them our allies. In our settings, they are in power, they make the decisions. And so we definitely have to bring them on board, but strategically. And I must say strategically, because you want the women to be at the forefront, but having them as we consult them to be our allies can really bring them on board. Thank you.
Laura, you have the last 30 seconds.
Well, I really think that at the community level, at least in Spain, at the community level, you find also men that are very willing to help us to move. So you in the different social actors, you have already committed men that are sharing the fight. And we have to, it's not that they are all, but they are enough, and we need to visibilize them as well as we need. But for industry, it still is an everyday fight. And the Secretary of State of Energy is sitting there. And for all the panels that we organize in the Spanish Secretary of Energy, of State of Energy, it is really a difficult fight with the industry, because we need women. We say we want to have women, and we are step by step, we are involving more and more and visibilizing the women that are inside those industries.
Thank you very much, Laura. Please welcome me in thanking this panel. We've had some very insightful recommendations, and I'll start from this last one, the engagement of men as allies, getting them to see that we actually need women in the renewal, in the just transition, empowering and building capacity for women all the way from grassroots to the leadership and decision making, how to make sure we have inclusive and meaningful consultation processes with all parties at all levels, increasing investments in gender-specific education and training, recognizing that we need to go all the way from grassroots to policy. We need that political will and leadership and institutional capacity to actually achieve gender equality in the just transition, the need for data, and making sure that we actually have the data on what's working, where are the gaps, and how do we get to more evidence-based programming and policy. And I won't forget financing that works for women in the just transition. So thank you all for joining us and for those really insightful comments. Thank you to the audience as well.
Can I have the mic on?
Don't start before I give you a signal, okay?
Okay, but we got to start now. Yeah. Okay, but they can't. Okay, everyone, take a seat for the opening, and you can gather around to the side too. Come on over here. So, guys, 2 minutes, no more than 2 minutes a person, so that we can get down. Okay. Yeah, exactly. Well, I don't know, soda. So, okay, yeah, okay. I'm gonna pass the mic. Okay, so. Yeah, I'm going to open. No, don't sit. Stand up. Yeah, they just had sitting. So so we'll do Elena, and then Rhea. Oh yeah, Elena. Sorry, Elena, Michaela, Rhea, Jamie. Okay. Okay, can we start? Can we? No, we gotta start. Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Feminist Action for Climate Justice Action Coalition reception of COP28. Woo! I am so excited that you are here tonight. I am Rosalind Helfand. I am the thematic lead of the Feminist Action for Climate Justice Action Coalition, or FACJ, as some like to call it. I first want to express my tremendous gratitude to all of you for being here. This is a coalition. It's a collaboration. Some of you are new to this coalition. You're going to learn about it for the first time this evening. It is convened by UN Women under our Generation Equality Forum. It is a global multi-stakeholder partnership with commitments that have been made from 2021 to 2026. And some of you are commitment makers, and you have commitments under this Action Coalition. If you have a commitment, like Jennifer Unelius from Sweden, under this coalition, please raise your hand if you have a commitment. Woo! Give yourselves a round of applause. Yeah. So, we have several co-hosts of our reception. We're just going to hear a couple of words from each of our co-hosts. Then we have two of our youth leaders of the Action Coalition who are going to get you to all stand up, and they're going to ask you to do a fun little networking exercise. And then we're bringing out the food, and we have food and beverages. So with that, I want to introduce the first of our co-hosts from the government of Spain, who's leading us tonight, Elena Pita Dominguez, who you just heard on the panel, the director of the Biodiversity Foundation from the Spanish Ministry. Elena, over to you.
Thank you very much. Well, I'm very happy to be here. In fact, I'm very honored to welcome you again to this event. I just very quickly want to share three messages with you. The first is to say thank you. Thank you to UN Women, and thank you to our fellows and co-organizers of this event. The second message is just to very quickly highlight the success of the Global Conference on Gender and Environment Data that was held last week, and that where a call to action emerged, counting on a sustainable future for all through gender and environment data. So I think it's important to highlight. And the third point is just that I'm looking forward to share with you our commitments and the action that we have taken, and to know about how these commitments and initiatives are being implemented, both in integrating gender equity and promoting women entrepreneurships, and also promoting the integration of the gender approach in the water management, which are the three key commitments where Spain is working. In particular, in the Biodiversity Foundation, we're working both on the internal and external aspects. We're working on the operating part of our human resources management and procurement, and we are also working in our projects and programs. So looking forward to share with you all these initiatives. Thank you. I pass to my...
Hi everyone, so good to see you. I will keep it short. I'm from the Nordic Council of Ministers. We work with Nordic cooperation. And 2 years ago, we realized that almost all of our climate policies were gender blind. And during CSW 66, we made a commitment under the Feminist Action for Climate Justice to do something about this. And today we launched a knowledge hub on gender and climate, which we are very happy to talk more about. And this commitment also included building alliances and strengthening international cooperation. So I'm looking forward to meeting you and talking to you all today. Thank you.
Thank you. And before we introduce our next speaker, I want to announce that the International Development Law Organization recently signed on to be the newest leader of the Action Coalition, and we're about to hear from Rhea, their representative tonight, so big round of applause. And Rhea, over to you.
Thank you so much. I think it is with great pleasure that we are here to be acknowledged and to be recognized as the leader of the Action Coalition. 2.5 years ago, when the Generation Equality Forum happened in Mexico and in Paris, we were really committed to doing to contribute to the Feminist Action for Climate Justice Action Coalition. And IDLO has made the commitment of 500,000 euros at the time to be able to push forward against the pushback on the nexus between gender and climate. So we are very delighted to be here, and we are committed to the Action Coalition and integrating a rule of law approach to feminist action for climate justice. We work on ensuring that legal and regulatory frameworks on gender and climate are gender transformative, that women are in leadership and stronger roles within climate and decision-making processes. And we also want to ensure that women's land rights continues to be considered as a central solution to addressing the climate crisis. So thank you very much. We hope that this networking event, we will all draw inspiration and solidarity and new innovative ideas. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jamie Wen-Bussin, and I'm a Senior Gender Program Manager at the International Union for Conservation of Nature. We are the world's largest, oldest environmental network, and we're really proud as well to have, for many decades, advanced gender equality in all environmental spaces, including this one. We were really excited to join Generation Equality and the FACJ because we actually have two joint commitments under the FACJ. One is to address gender-based violence and climate change linkages, both at policy levels, but also on the ground through the RISE Grants Challenge mechanism. The other is to advance gender and environment data in partnership with organizations like we do. And together we're the co-hosts and co-organizers for the Gender and Environment Data Conference, which had a very important call to action that we hope that everyone has had access to. And if not, let us know. We'll make sure you get a hold of it. And the reason why I really want to highlight those commitments is not so much that this is what we're working on and focused on, but the nature of joint work and collaboration, right? Right now, we are in the midst of 16 days to acknowledge and address action on gender-based violence. And the theme this year is about investments, right? Investing in this space. Throughout these weeks, we've talked a lot and heard a lot about climate finance, making sure that it's gender responsive, that it's transformative, and that it's more accessible, especially for grassroots organizations, indigenous peoples, and organizations really working at the community and field levels where the real change is happening, and frankly, where these issues are a matter of life and death, right? And at CSW soon, we'll also be continuing the conversation about investments. So with that, I just want to say that we're really happy to invite everyone for this networking reception, because when we think about investments, we think about money. But more than that, I think tonight we can think about our investments as also our relationships with one another as people, as organizations. And I really hope that we also use this as a platform for really highlighting our youth activists that are really the beating heart of the FACJ and who speak truth to power and always hold us accountable. So with that, if I can hand it back to Rosalind to introduce the youth.
All right, thank you, Jamie. Okay, and before I introduce our youth activists to kick off our networking, I just want to let you know that we'll be running these slides. Let's see if it works, where we will highlight, there we go. So we're going to these will have QR codes, and you can learn more about different reports that have come out from members of the Action Coalition and UN Women. So you'll be able to check out these QR codes throughout the evening, and I will be rotating those. So with that, I would like to welcome up Aishka Najib, who is a youth activist with Fridays for Future MAPA. And also I'd like to welcome up Jessica Hernandez of Landesa. Come on up. And I think what I'd like to do is ask everyone to go ahead and stand. And they're going to, as soon as they introduce what the networking activity will be, before we just open it up for food and general networking. So over to you.
Thank you so much, Rosalind. Hi, everyone. As Rosalind mentioned, my name is Aishka Najib. I work with Fridays for Future MAPA. We are one of the youth commitment makers to the FACJ and also youth leaders. But before, let me get a temperature check. Who here is excited to work on gender and climate? Amazing. Now we know we're in the right room. Okay. Yeah, so do you want to give an introduction?
So, buen día. I'm Jessica Hernandez. I'm from the Maya Chortin Binisa tribal nations. How many indigenous peoples do we have in this room? Raise your hand. Woo! Thank you for representing. So I also work for Landesa. We're an organization that champions for women land rights. Who thinks women land rights are important? Yes. So yeah, do you want to start the first question?
Okay, so the energy is in the room. We can feel it, but now we need to house it, okay? I feel like in the beginning, when Rosalind was giving introduction, we had all these amazing commitment makers come here and share what their value was. It truly highlighted what we want to achieve with the FACJ, with the Generation Equality Platform, right? It is to create a space where multi-stakeholders working in different sectors, like whether that's youth, civil society, international, intergovernmental organizations, funders, to come together and share our different experiences, our different expertise, and to mobilize together, build upon that for gender equality and climate justice. So that's exactly what we're going to do, getting started. We would like everybody to get up, come on. Yes, how's the energy? Yes, and for our first networking question is, first we would like to identify who all in this room are commitment makers at the moment. Look around, look at the commitment makers, okay. Who here are not commitment makers but have come to learn more about the FACJ? Amazing, we love that. Now, what we want to see is please find someone new in the room. Do not cheat. Someone new in the room. Get out of your comfort zone, our echo chambers. So if you haven't made a commitment, try to find a commitment maker. Someone who's new, someone who's a commitment maker, and go to them and be like, why did you do this? Why are you a commitment maker? What has gotten you to here? Okay, and if you are a commitment maker, ask them, how do you find yourself here today? You know, would you like to join in on the party? So that's the networking question. Find new people, get to know why they became commitment makers, or explore, if you are new, explore why we are housing the space, or what we do as commitment makers. So with that, is there anything else to add? Okay, perfect. So we have a second question as well. So we will work with the first question in terms of networking, and then the second question.
Yes, and the second question is, what is one lesson learned from your commitment that is important to the climate talks? So make sure you discuss this with people, especially the climate talks that have taken place thus far. So enjoy the reception, and it's nice meeting all of you.
Okay, everybody.
Know and answer the questions. Go for it.
And we'll just come around to eavesdrop and see what we can pick up from the room.